There's always this discussion around what can technology do for good with regards to our day-to-day living, with regards to our business, and with regards to issues like pandemics that are happening right now. Technology is being incorporated in everything that we do in our everyday lives. So with our AI for good topic today, we want to see and go through a discussion on how AI can assist in curbing the current pandemic. We do have two speakers lined up for today. We have Mrs. Georgina Odhiambo, and Georgina is a banker, but she's very, very passionate about technology and especially AI. And then secondly, we have Mr. John Kamara. John is an entrepreneur, and John is the founder of AI-driven Other Labs and Afia Record. And they're both going to share on how AI and machine learning can be used today with regards to technology, with regards to our lives. And to kick off the presentation for today, we will kick off with Georgina, and Georgina will go through her slides, and then we will have John take over. As usual, please post your questions in the Q&A. We do have handouts sitting in the handout window in the tool. We also do have a poll that you can start responding to that ties back to today's topic. Just like you, I am here to learn on the amazing things that technology does. Thank you very much. Georgina, please take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Laura, for that wonderful introduction. And just to add on a bit about myself, indeed, I'm passionate about technology and also a service delivery ambassador, and I have over 12 years experience handling projects and evaluating technology. More than that, I'm a wife, a mother, friend, and sister. And once in a while, when I have the chance, I'd love to watch Money Heist. So let's get right to it. I want to welcome you to my 15th journey and hope that you will journey together with me. So we're going to tackle, or rather have some thought process around what is AI. More importantly, why AI is relevant in these times. As introduced, I'm in the banking industry, so we have to see what is relevant for us in terms of use cases and what challenges this COVID-19 presents to the FSI industry, then tie it in all AI for good. How then can we be useful? And when time allows, I'm happy to take questions, comments, and any suggestions. So then, what is AI? You know, I hope you're curious like the people on my slide. Indeed, if we look at what the scientist says, and especially many people agree that John McCarthy is one of the founding fathers of AI. And in context, you know, keeping out the very long discussions, very long, you know, interpretations, it is basically having the ability of a machine or a computer to think and to learn. So where does that tie in with everything that we want to discuss? So let's understand how AI has evolved to allow us to know where exactly we are in this industrial revolution. And with AI, it's been coined as the fourth industrial revolution. So where did it all begin? The field of AI was founded actually in a workshop that was held in Dortmund campus, and this was around 1956. This obviously was chaired by John McCarthy. As indicated, he is the father of AI, amongst other people. And they really had some certain objectives they wanted to conclude or to think about. So if we had to do AI, we needed to teach machines how to reason. That means they need to be able to get in as much data as they can and help us make decisions. We needed the machines to be able to have some sort of presentation. That means it needed to take some sort of data sets. It even needed to be able to look at an image and then interpret, this is a human, this is a box, this is a dog. And part of AI should allow machines to move about. This was to give rise to things like the robotics and do a lot of RPA. And then finally, if we're able to do all this, then these machines that are able to mimic the human behavior should then be able to understand all our natural languages. But hang on, this was in the 50s and the 60s. So they were very ambitious, but did not know now how to be able to process all this data. We didn't have enough computing power, and it looked like it was going to fail. But as time went around and the decades moved, computing changed, and this also gave rise to the confidence that we can use artificial intelligence. So it allowed us now, probably 20 to 25 years later, we're able to connect and now organize large amounts of data. We'll agree computing has changed. The scale at which we can do cloud, at which we can do processing on giga level or tera level, this has now increased. Back then, we didn't have proper tools and frameworks. That's why it looked like it was going to fail. But tools and frameworks were developed to allow everybody be able to tap into what AI can now do for the industry, even for an end user. And hence now, once all that had been taken care of, guys went a step further to allow AI to do some prototyping. So now you have AI as a service. So it allows people to make up or achieve all these objectives that they had intended out, so that the machine can be able to reason. So we have our machine learning, then now we're able to have knowledge presentation. So we have predictive analytics. We now have machines being able to move about with the robotics and now process natural language. So we might looks all about academic and lots of notes, lots of comments, but how is AI relevant now? I talked about the fourth industrial revolution. So what has it done? It's exponentially changed the way we live, work, and relate to one another. We've adopted various technologies. I don't necessarily have to be in one, to get service seated in one place. I'm able to work on my phone, my laptop. I'm able to do large amounts of transactions, process a lot of data. But look what happened now in these times. The same effect has been felt by the pandemic. The pandemic indeed has changed the way we live. It has actually changed how we work and how we relate to each other. We can't shake hands, we can't hug, we can't do all that. But what the COVID-19 pandemic, in as much as changing how the way we work and live, it brought about uncertainty into this whole equation of the fourth industrial revolution. So then we wonder, this is how now AI becomes relevant. As a technology, it allows for the flexibility to quickly adapt to these changes. Remember the objectives which the founding fathers set out to do. So we have to be able to harness data to allow us to make decisions quickly. There's too much uncertainty. What do we do? How do we become agile? How do we become swift on our feet? How do we churn out products? How do we do all this? So that is how now we look at the relevance of AI, especially in these uncertain times of the COVID. So I'd like to just talk about some of these use cases that we have, especially in the financial services industry, and how AI is helping the banking industry, leapfrog steps further. With process automation, this is very key for us, especially a lot of things are handled at a back office, and tasks actually are repeated. Account opening, filling of forms, requesting for your card, all that. These are repetitive processes, and AI has helped us to do a lot of process automation. But fraud detection and anti-money laundering, definitely in order to detect a pattern of fraud, you need to be able to churn a lot of data, and not from just one source, various sources in different data sets, in different form, in any shape and manner. And this is how AI is helping. Most importantly, better and fair credit decisions. If you have only one set of data to determine if somebody is credit worthy, they may not score well there. But we're in the business of helping people and providing financial services. So we're using a lot of AI to help us make actually I don't only say it better, but I have to add the word fair credit decision to allow everybody to be able to access credit and when they need. On top of that, we have chatbots. I love chatbots because I'm passionate about service delivery. So this is a tool. Well, there are zealots of AI who would probably not consider chatbots as, native or intrinsically AI, but I believe they are able to pick in data and give a response. They are able to mimic what a human is supposed to do. And this really takes care, especially of customers who are not able to access, your call centers, who are not able to access your services. So they use the chatbots to be able to get some assistance to very basic banking needs. This is quite awesome. So how about alternative data for trading? Don't know much about trading, but I do know it is quite complex. And so in order to make these decisions quick, you need to make them fast. And that's why we are harnessing a lot of AI to ensure that we can get the correct pricing, we can get our performance metrics and make the best kind of decisions. So we've seen what is relevant for us. We've seen why AI is relevant. So we're in the times of COVID now. So what are the challenges brought on by COVID, this COVID pandemic? So with consumer lending, so what's happened? And it's out there, job loss, pay cuts, likely defaulting on our loans, distress in that I don't have a steady income, I'm going to need some form of credit. So this is something that wasn't with us. Indeed, lending is not new, but with COVID, it's a lot of customers and consumers are going to feel a lot of financial distress. So then how do we determine who is in distress, who is going to default because they are likely to get a pay cut? So you see, there's a lot of uncertainty that has been brought about with the COVID pandemic. And there is branch banking. There is still a population up until now, those who are zealots of digital banking, there is still a population who needs to visit the branch. And, the value chain of payments, for example, if you're listening from Kenya, places like NHIF and KRA, you still need to produce a banking receipt. So that means I must walk into a branch, but I can't. You're telling me to do social distancing. I have to quarantine. I personally am scared. I don't want to be able to have to come to the branch. So earlier on, it was okay for me to come to the branch because I have to go and make my payments. Now I cannot. We're going to have a lot of reduced customer satisfaction levels. I was used to doing things in a certain way. I would call the call center, let them know I'm having an issue, let them know this ATM is malfunctioning, let them know that my balance was not correct. So with the COVID, we expected obviously to do the social distancing. We expected to stay home. So the workforce is going to really be impacted. And though the teams that man the call centers, that man the customer touch points are indeed going to be reduced. And talk about as anxious and vulnerable employees. That's it. I'm going to sit in the office. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know if I'm going to be laid off. I don't know. There's so much news going around. I listen to a daily briefing. I go to CNN. I go to BBC. There's just so much. As an employee, I'm quite anxious. And what does that? Gives me bait. I'm quite a bait for a lot of phishing attacks. And if I'm not sure about what I'm doing, I can easily be compromised. And then now I become a target for cybersecurity fraud. Okay, so we've seen why AI started. I think it was important to look at AI, not just as from the end. It's good to know how it started, that there was a group of people who really had huge ideas, faced challenges, and it's good to understand that the objectives that they held true in 1965 is still what has helped shape AI in terms of, let the machine be able to reason, let me move about, and then actually allow machines to process natural natural language. So now, how do we tap into this? We've seen the various challenges. Banking is a service. We provide banking services. You provide, your card services. All these have got, for it to work effectively and smoothly, there needs to be that sort of interaction. I need to be able to see my business banker, and when I'm making the deal, when I'm there signing the deal papers, I'm able to see him. When I want to collect my forms, or if I'm a student and I've just opened up an account and I need to collect, my card or my details, I need that interaction. But that's not going to happen now because of COVID. So then, how does AI become useful? This is the best part. Incidentally, we knew this all along, but it just became a reality. If you had a digital transformation plan that was due in 2023 or 2024, this is what has happened. If you've been forced to move it years ahead, it's going to come now. So, the blessing is that these are things which we actually knew, but now are becoming a reality. Say, virtual assistants for account services. Can you, through an app, I am able to, interact with the banking system as if the agent is there with me, guiding me. And these virtual assistants, why I like them, they are going to allow for some personal financial management. You will be able to feed off my data from probably transactions I've done, merchants I've visited, and I'm in distress because I don't know in the next 3 months what's going to happen. So I interrogate with my virtual assistant from whichever bank that I'm banking with. It lets me know, okay, you can survive for the next 3 months. The next 4 months is going to be tough. So you need to do a few things differently. Credit decisions. For the first 3 months, I was an excellent customer, scoring very high on my credit. But then I've lost. The employer has announced a pay cut, obviously as a result of the COVID situation, in that we have reduced working hours. So that obviously translates to reduced pay. So then, does that mean that I'm not creditworthy? There are other subsets of data that can show what I'm able to do for the next X months. If I shop prudently, if they see I've not been involved in many accidents, which means I'm not using a lot of money for repairs, I have good health, so I have potential for longevity, then I'm able to have a better credit score. And remember about the anxious employee. I'm going to be trigger happy. Every time a mail comes through, I'm thinking, okay, it's about the COVID. My employer is letting me know they have laid me off or something. So I'm quite in a nervous situation. But if we have the necessary AI applications that, are checking through the number of emails, what is the pattern? Who are they? What is the likely heat map? What is the likely rate of someone being compromised? Then you protect yourself. I think also we to highlight about these rule-based applications and leveraging a lot on RPA, robotic processing. So evidently, goes without saying what this COVID has done to us. Reduced workforce. I'm not able to access amenities and facilities that I would. So how easy is it for the teams in the back office? Because this is the thing, life has to go on. Those businesses that are allowed to operate with essential services must. There's the supermarkets. So still a back office process needs to run. If indeed I'm creditworthy, then my application has to be processed in a certain way. Indeed, if I have been granted the license that I am now essential services, I can operate my supermarket, my grocery store, then some back office process would still need to happen. And this is how we have the rule-based applications. Okay, I think I want to end my short 15-minute journey around that, and just leave you with the thought that curbing the pandemic and leveraging of AI will allow life to go on, will allow users, will allow consumers to get services, will allow consumers reduce the uncertainty of what will happen, reduce distress, reduce the worry of how we will survive in the next 4 months, use predictive analytics, predictive data to make better decisions for yourself and for your employees. Thanks very much. I hope I have engaged your thought process.
Thank you, Georgina. And thank you for that intro to AI. And it's actually very interesting that it's been quite a journey since 1956. And this is very well tied in with the fourth industrial revolution. One of the first webinars that we put together was, I mentioned the fourth industrial revolution and talked about how technology, in fact, the pandemic has kind of accelerated us into accepting the current, the role of technology in the fourth industrial revolution. Now, quick one, just to recap on some of the things you've said. Adaptability, AI is going to make, is going to create that flexibility, and it will make us adaptable around the current pandemic. We have no choice. We have to move on. Life must go on. But how are we using technology to make sure life goes on? So one of the things we'll have to embrace, and embrace very fast, is AI. And then those mundane tasks that are repetitive over and over again, those processes that kind of make our jobs boring on a day-to-day basis, it's very exciting to hear that AI can help with that. So moving on swiftly, I'd like to introduce John. John, you can take over and land your presentation now.
So my name is John Kamara. I'm going to load my presentation. I will be talking very quickly about taking over from what Georgina has talked about. But real quick, my background. My background is in technology and business management. But over the past few years, moved more into the technology space. I am a director for the Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa in Cape Town. I'm also a director for innovation for the Nelson Mandela University in Arusha. And I'm also the founder for Ada Lab, which is an AI-driven lab. And at the same time, also, I am the founder of Afia Record, which is a consumer-driven platform built around artificial modeling. And I also run Cortex Logic as the CEO. So I'm going to go straight into what I'm going to talk about. Georgina has done a really good job in talking to us about what AI is, even though in my slide, I don't like too many slides. I just, go straight quickly into the conversation. And thanks very much, Georgina. But just to touch a little bit, you see on my slide, number one, what is AI and how can it help various sectors? The first thing to understand is artificial intelligence does not work without data. And any form of artificial modeling does not exist without some form of data, because the idea is, if you think about artificial intelligence as the day you give birth to a child, it is just a child. Until the child starts feeding data, then it becomes what you feed the data to be or what you expect the data to be. And that's why we talk about AI for good, or depending on how people leverage the power of AI. Now, in the same artificial intelligence, we talk about multiple different versions or verticals of it. So we can start from pure AI, which allows you to create models that you use data sets to allow you to do predictive intelligence or decision making, or you can even create precision or dynamic information or pricing. You can use conversational AI, which are things around chatbots that learn and mimic the interaction of the consumer and begin to create value. You can also talk about self-learning machines. Now you're really going into real machine learning, where you have built a system based on neural networks that allows the machine to learn without the program being programmed to do specific tasks, but it's just purely learning from example. And it becomes a neural network on its own that actually has its own ability to think billions of terabytes of data running through what you probably call a quantum machine learning tool that allows you to instantly module how many cosmic rays would happen across our ozone layer within X amount of years. And there's a lot of people who do this in radioactive artificial intelligence. But to circle back for a minute, to stay with regular everyday life. So various sectors, we see financial services, healthcare, insurance, retail, all these sectors that are very consumer driven are going to be led by artificial intelligence, if not right now, but in the next year. Live case example, we worked in a project with one of the big banks in South Africa when I was the CEO for Cortex Logic. And it was basically taking an insurance product within a banking sector and use that product to create a module that allows us to recreate a dynamic pricing for the consumer, at the same time create a dynamic model for precision information and the accuracy of time. So dynamic pricing, precision information, accuracy of time. What time will Georgina buy this product? I will sell it to him at 6 p.m. in the evening, because there's a lot of data sets that I understand that say 6 p.m. is the best time between 6 and 7. How will Georgina get this product? Basically means that looking at that data set that I already have, Georgina will get a 1.2% interest rate, and Laura will get a 1.6% interest rate, but they apply for the same product. And they've been banking with us for 10 years. So those kind of precision modeling also is a very important tool where the bank was able to scale over 28% in terms of those type of customers. We also work with a retail customer as well, one of the largest ones in South Africa as well too. And, purely on a marketing perspective, you have consumers who were buying goods and who had reward programs over 5, 6, 7 years, but data is of a consistent change because the consumer has been changing over time. So with that, being able to pull the sets of data and begin to do some very basic modeling around what consumer new profile would look like, we were able to then present the consumers with specific values that allow them to decide what they were going to do. And our platform, what we're doing, the platform that, sorry, I think I was going in and out for a second. The platform, what we're building is a healthcare platform that is consumer driven. And the idea of the platform is to allow the consumer, which is Afia Record, to allow the consumer access their own data anywhere, anytime. And the reason why this is important is allows us to do, from an artificial intelligence perspective, apart from just a customer being able to store their data, but it also allows us to look at what we call disease correlation and underlying diseases using keyword as a map. So effectively, we can look at a consumer, look at the existing disease protocols that exist within that consumer profile, look at the accuracy of data that is coming in as they're also interacting with the platform, and begin to train the engine to understand and do a lot of precision information around what could be the potential risk of that consumer going forward. So then you build a recommendation model that says, well, this is what we recommend for you to do. And that could also help people in the healthcare space to learn a little bit more about the consumer intelligence before they even treat the patients. The other side of it also is to then look at how, using those data sets that's coming in from what we call unstructured form of data, we can then begin to use that data set to, create what we call a keyword correlation with data to then say, well, potentially there is a high risk of, this type of disease in, Mombasa, because the people around that area, when we're looking at, the type of keywords that we're seeing, and when we're looking at the correlation of a specific disease, we can then also see that, this information and that individual might actually be more prone to a particular type of disease, or that individual might actually not have the right type of treatment. Then in the case of COVID, What we're then doing is looking at that same information and being able to do some dynamic information modeling to say, well, this particular ward in, Mombasa or Kilifi, this particular ward, there is a propensity for a high rate of potential COVID cases. But also within this particular ward, there's a lot of people who have diabetics or a lot of people who have HIV. Now we can correlate and simulate what the disaster protocol might look like in that particular ward if you take those two sets of data coming in from, what we call live and active data and the existing data modules that we get from, the disease type partners that we're working with. And then that obviously presents us with the opportunity to provide the data information for that. Okay, cool.
All right.
So when we then use that set of data, we can then be able to help the counties to predict potential outbreak areas. And also we can look at the correlation of the health workers, the community, the mapping of the information that is coming in, and then also be able to predict what might happen, and also the movement of those health workers within the communities and the propensity for that community to have a higher hit rate for COVID. So that is one of the things that we're doing from a COVID perspective to help the governments and a number of agencies and organizations that have, huge issues with existing disease types. Because one of the things that we know about COVID is that it does have there's an affinity for more people who have existing or pre-existing conditions to fall sick and to have a lot more fatal reactions to the disease. So that's what we focus on the underbelly of the existing disease types and the data, and look at the different types of disease types that mimic COVID as well, and look at which ones of them actually, based on the different disease protocols, which one of them actually have the higher kill value or kill rate if you convert it with COVID. So I call it Ebola mixed COVID or HIV mixed COVID. Let us look at those data and let us look at what it's saying, apart from just predicting what potential outbreaks there might be. From an organization perspective, that's how we are leveraging AI to be able to help us, provide a better service in the health space. And then obviously going forward, if you look at healthcare, artificial intelligence can allow us to create, 50 to 100 different variations of sequencing if we want to do an operation in real time, just using data. And also can allow you to be able to make precision-based decision-making, again, very quickly. A decision that would have taken a doctor, say, 6 months to make, with a very smart self-learning tool with, connectivity and cognitive disease modeling, you can actually do that very, very quickly. And you find that you have different variations and different sequences, than all that is less for the human to just make a decision on which one works best. So now you've killed time, you've saved the patient's life, and the doctor or the surgeons are quicker at making decisions faster. Now, going back into, for other types of organizations, how do you use AI? Do you need basic AI or do you need self-learning machines? The answer is really simple. Most organizations just need basic AI, because most organizations just want to, make very quick, fast decisions and create products that allows them to either increase their ROI or sell better products, or know who to sell products to, or just use the data to even for efficiency, or even know where to do what, when, and how. So most companies, having data scientists and maybe a couple of one or two AI engineers will allow you to build very simple models that will actually solve those problems for you, where you don't really need to go into deep learning or machine learning or quantum machine learning with neurophysics on top of it, because you don't need that much amount of computing power to be able to do that. But the biggest problem for artificial intelligence, even here in Kenya, is data sets. And I have been involved with a couple of banks right now at the minute, and the biggest problem is that their data sets are not machine readable. So if you're considering how would AI help me, the first thing you need to consider is, what does my data set look like? What does my database look like? What is the structure of my database? And is it something that I can actually build a machine learning tool? Or do I first of all need to clean and enhance the data so it actually makes sense? And that's where I kind of tell a lot of clients to start from. Let us look at the data, let us look at the objective, and then let us understand if the data will correlate to us being able to get the objective. If it doesn't, then we need to basically go back into that data and create filter models that allows you then to understand what that data set is saying and how you can then build a module around that. That is one. The other part then is, are you using artificial intelligence for conversational modeling around, customer service, e-commerce, internet banking? Now you need machine learning tools that are just a little bit more above just modules. You now need what I call simulator machine learning tools that becomes a little bit of a self-learning machine, because it's also mimicking the information that it's getting, but it's creating multiple filters in real time where it stores those information and allows the machine to consistently talk to the customer. But what you're also looking to do is then say, okay, well, this machine that I built, can I also create it to be what I call a predictive analyst? So then the machine obviously then becomes the one that prompts your consumers, that becomes the one that take in other data sets like social data from different places and maps it all together and continues to understand your customer in ways that you or your staff could never have understood those type of customers. So one of the very, very important things in machine learning is around the set of data that you have. And for startups or SMEs, organizations who are looking to do that, you need to really understand how to clean your data set so that it actually throws you out, and that takes a lot of time and money. And that's why you always advise companies, when you're going into new database structures, please try to begin to build data set structures that are actually machine readable based on what you want to achieve, because or else it's going to set you back, and that will cost you a ton of money. We see a lot of banks who have so much data, but now the problem is, what do you do with that data, and how do you actually use it to understand what to do with the customers, or how to sell specific products to them? I mean, what I really enjoy is when you come to that dynamic and precision modeling of an individual. That is where you earn your dollars, because then that individual, at the level at which, or even the type of product and pricing of product you need to give a particular person, and the one you need to give another person. So that's pretty much, from my perspective, what I feel, machine learning can provide for organizations. That is also what we're doing as an organization from a healthcare perspective. And our philosophy is to use machine learning to provide solutions and enhance insurance, at the same time create cognitive modeling for disease types, that we can help people with existing diseases to even understand what they need to do better. We'll take questions now. Thank you very much. I hope most of you caught what I said without the video drama.
Thank you. Thank you, John. That was a very insightful presentation, and thanks for walking us through some of the stuff that you're doing as an organization. I really like this HIV/Ebola meets COVID. That's a very interesting, what is it called? Meeting point, or just a way of connecting the different things that happen from unknown illnesses that happen to just land upon us as human beings, and our lives are suddenly disrupted by illnesses that we knew nothing about. The whole story around healthcare and technology is actually very exciting. Just to know that technology would be able to assist doctors in making decisions around saving lives is mind-blowing and phenomenal, because in very many cases we'll find that decisions are taking a long time to be made. Lots and lots of tests need to be done. But if we have data that we can use to accelerate and make those decisions in order to be able to save lives, I think, the world would definitely be a better place, and technology would be something that has changed health or people's lives today, and even from a point of affordability and providing of medication, proper usage of insurance, you know, that predictability and accuracy is very important, because at the end of the day, anyway, we are all human beings and we are seeking a healthier and better life. The health education bit, I think, is something that's really, really missing, especially when we look at what is happening with COVID-19 right now. We have all these campaigns running left, right, center. If we had had some data around this that we were able to, you know, to simulate and play around with using AI, I think in terms of education, we would not be pulling out or pushing out all sorts of posters that keep coming every day that remind people to wash their hands, put on their masks. How do we distribute funding to feed people who can't go to work? You know, all sorts of crazy things that are happening. So with advanced education around health, all these issues that we have, even with HIV, Ebola, MERS, SARS, you know, some of them didn't even reach us. We don't know much about them today, but with health education, we would be better prepared as a continent. So well done on what you guys are doing. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to step away and let you and Georgina go through the Q&A. I can see a lot of questions already in the window, and the two of you can tag team and answer those questions. We have about 20 minutes to go, and then I will come back.